And a very good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. This is episode 103. Yeah, because next one's our official 2-year birthday. Episode 103, Pro Synth Network Show, live, coming from you, mostly from the UK today, and a little bit from America. We'll find out exactly where in just a moment. Also, for those of you watching on catch up, hi. Where were you? But glad you made it over here in the end. So thank you. Usual 2 hours of synthesizer and music technology chit chat, going over news topics and interviewing a very special guest that we have this week, which we'll introduce in just a moment. Before we do, can I also just ask you to please like, subscribe and share, because that's really cool. And I'm getting an echo back. Let's see who that might be. Somebody's got their speakers on. And it's coming back. There we go. Oh, there you go. That's all sorted. Please like, subscribe and share, because that's how we get noticed, and that's how we can maybe keep going. And if you wouldn't mind, we'd love you to donate, but you don't have to. This is completely free of charge. But if you do feel like you want to support the show, because that's how we keep going, you can donate to us. The link is in the description underneath the video here, but there it is. That's our PayPal donation link, and of course you can use the YouTube donation functions, super chat, super stickers, that kind of stuff. You don't have to do it, but if you feel that way inclined, we are super appreciative of all of our supporters, and you are the guys that keep us on air, because we do it all for you. So if you want to keep us going, that's how you can do so. You can also interact with us over on all the social media channels, so of course Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and of course here on YouTube. All the handles are exactly the same, at Pro Synth Network. You can get in touch with us there. And I think that's all the formalities out of the way. One more thing. If you would like to ask a question of us or of our guest, then if you wouldn't mind just sticking a big Q at the front of your message in the chat, that just helps us pick it out. Then we chuck it into the question bin, and then we'll pick them out from there and go through them as much as we can. So that would be really helpful. So I think that's all of those little formalities out of the way. Let's go first of all to our illustrious leader, the man that's responsible for all of this. You can blame him for everything. It's Ben Simpson. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you for such a brilliant introduction there.
Well, I try my best to shift the blame as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Busy week this week?
Yeah, more of the same, really. Just working on the album again. We're up to the mastering stages now, which is completely new to us. So, watching loads of YouTube videos, trying to work out how to do it, and we're trying our best. Let's see how it goes.
There was a really good video that came out just yesterday, I think. It was Sand on Sand. Released a mastering to vinyl, like a half-hour thing with Miles from Abbey Road, Miles Showell, who's like one of the top mastering engineers over there. You might want to have a look at that. It's a good half-hour video on mastering. I don't know if you are. Are you going to be putting this out on vinyl?
Probably not this one, but when we get round to the original album, yeah. Cool. Wouldn't mind doing a limited run on vinyl.
Yeah. Make sure I get a copy.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Now we nip over to the reason that we are late this evening. It was just a few minutes late. And it's YouTube. We're not bound by any schedules, but it's all his fault for this. Hello, Kent. How are you?
Hi, and I'm not repentant.
How's you? Have you had a busy week? Because you're still having your new workshop fitted out.
The workshop's going up. It's looking very nice. Very good. Very posh.
We need to see pictures. We need pictures.
Oh, there will be pictures. There will be
good.
pictures.
Excellent stuff. Electricity back on today?
Yeah, today so far.
Fingers crossed it stays that way, at least for the next 2 hours. Good stuff. But you're all well in yourself, yeah?
Yeah, ticking over.
Rested up from last night's shenanigans?
No,
me either. I'm still feeling it. Anyway, good to see you, mate. Try and stay just for the next 2 hours. That would be fantastic.
I can do the two.
Nice one. Before we introduce our guest, I do want to say a very big thank you to our friend Adamski, or Adam, as we know him, who's just donated £7.26. That's a strange amount. That's odd, isn't it? 7.20. Is there a reason? Is there a cryptic message in there? Whatever. Every penny
Gallon
is
of
very,
diesel.
very welcome. Probably 1 gallon of diesel right now. 7.26. Thank you, Adam. It's much appreciated. Your generosity knows no bounds. Welcome all to everyone else that's in the chat room. Thank you very much, Gert. Yes, if you haven't heard, I did an interview with Matt Johnson from Jamiroquai on my Sound on Sound podcasts. Came out on Tuesday, so if you haven't checked that out, go and check it out now. It's completely free. Yes, to everyone that's in the chat room, I'm not going to go through all the names because there are so many. But thank you for joining us and for your contributions. I hope you enjoy the show. And what was that, Adamski? After the UA... okay, fair enough. I understand that. Let's meet our guest. You might know this gentleman from various synthesizer products like the IK Multimedia UNO Synth, most recently, or the Alesis Andromeda. You might know him from his prog music career as a keyboardist and performer over many years through many bands, especially with his wife as well. We just know him as a great synthesist and a really nice guy. Welcome to Erik Norlander.
Ooh.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's great to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. And we find you in your little kind of home studio playroom, yeah?
Yes, I'm here in my lair in beautiful Northern California.
Where the magic happens.
Where the magic happens.
Have you been up to much recently in terms of gigging or work with new synthesizer products? Anything that's taking your time up at this present time?
I've been quite busy. You mentioned my wife, Lana Lane, who is a symphonic rock vocalist. She released an album at the end of January, and so we've been promoting that, of course, and we made 3 nice videos for that. So everyone just do a search for Lana Lane on YouTube, and you will find them. You'll see me playing in the videos. What am I playing? A memory Moog, a Rhodes Mark V, a Mini Moog, and of course an Andromeda.
Of course, yes,
Lovely.
always ever present. That's fantastic. So you got some nice kit. I'm just trying to figure out what you've kind of got there. So Dr. Manny Fernandez has already spotted something right at the back of the room there, the chrome.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was all our eyes were first drawn. Anything really cool that you've got there in the studio? Is that some Eurorack behind you on the flight cases?
It is. I haven't spoken to Manny Fernandez in a long time. Hi, Manny.
Yeah,
nice
there he
to
is.
virtually see you. That's great.
He's still around. He's probably on his lunch break right now because he comes in, sort of just at that time.
Oh, Manny is one of the best synth programmers in the business. No question.
Could not agree more. Could not agree more. Absolutely.
Yeah, I should have dressed up my room a little more. I didn't realize it was going to be show and tell. Yes, I have a little Eurorack system sitting over there. I'm actually changing out a few modules at the moment. It's the constant battle of trying to keep it within one little rack and not let it grow into this huge thing. Around the corner is my modular Moog, which unfortunately you can't see from the camera.
Right.
But that's the big modular, so that no need to let the Eurorack thing get out of control. But I got into Eurorack a little bit because I didn't want to be like the old man shouting at the sun, and it's like I kind of want to see what we're doing nowadays. So anyway,
we should hook you up with Manny again because Manny's been getting into Eurorack in a big way just recently. So you two really should hook up again.
That would be great.
We'll sort that out. We'll do something after the show. We'll exchange email addresses or something. Great. I'm sure Manny would love to catch up. What's that to your right there? You can just see sticking out to your right. Oh, is it your right?
To my right.
Yeah, to your right. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just there.
So that is a Crewmore Spirit.
Oh yes.
Ultra rare. Above a Yamaha MOXF8, not so rare. But I love the whole motif series.
Yes.
And I really got into these MOXF not the greatest name in the world, but it is a great synth, because they're really lightweight. In fact, even the 88 note in a flight case is still under 50 pounds.
Wow.
So they're great for touring, especially for fly-in dates and all of that. And you can put quite a bit of flash RAM in them as well, which, me as a sample guy, I always have to have my own samples. So that's nice. Yeah, and then on the other side, we've got a Voyager.
Nice.
Above my effects rack, there's a Quantec Room Simulator, which is a beautiful reverb, probably my favorite reverb, actually. Then an Eventide DSP 4000. And I normally have an H3000 under that, but it's just been serviced, and it's on its way back now. And then, of course, Lexicon 224X for all of you Blade Runner fans, which is probably everybody in this group. Now let me see if I can get my camera back where it was. All right. There we go.
Excellent. It's a nice little mini tour of the room there.
Yeah, and unfortunately behind the Chroma is my GS1, which is... Behind the Chroma are actually like 3 other synths, so it'd be a little hard for me to get to it at the moment. But
so take something to hide a GS1, because they're not small.
No, they're not. They're not small. Yeah.
And is yours operational?
It's perfectly operational, and it has
awesome.
It has MIDI on it, which my friend Andrei Kudryavtsev, who lives near me in Folsom,
I know Andrei.
I'm sure you guys know him. He's a active member of our community. He helped me with the restoration and the MIDI retrofit.
Oh, cool.
And also my good friend Rob Rosen down in Los Angeles also, of course, worked on that. So it was a big team effort. I'm sad to say that it did cost the lives of 3 GS2 units to get it functioning.
Yeah, so, these things happen.
These things happen, yes. But, they died for a good cause.
Exactly, yes.
And honestly, they were not healthy to begin with. So.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So, yes. Their active service is recognised and welcome. I know Andre from... because I do lots of Fairlight restoration. Of course, Andre has done a whole ton of great stuff with the Fairlights. And I think the last I heard, he was still working on Brad Fiedel's twin... Series 3s, which was a really impressive piece of kit.
Andre actually he restored a Synergy for me.
Oh wow!
A few years ago. So we just met, and actually I think we met before that. I think I bought something on Craigslist, our local used marketplace, from him, and we realized that we're from the same tribe.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
And where I live up here in the eastern part of Northern California, it's a little bit rural. So it's actually strange to meet other synth enthusiasts up here.
Now, Andre's a real star. I mean, some of the stuff that he's done in terms of keeping some of these machines alive, it's just incredible. So Deft Audio, I think his handle is on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and stuff. So go and check him out if you want some really good stuff. Also, you just need to mention, because he's zipped out of my view here. Thank you very much, Manny. Tell Eric to pick up the dang Quadrasynth, apparently.
So that's actually where Manny and I met. Because when we were working on the Quadrasynth and QS series back in days of yore, we sought out the best programmers in the business, and we thought, we need to make this thing work, because when I came in to the company, it had been kind of released a little prematurely and not really under the control of people that knew a lot about synthesizers. In fact, the guy that had started the project, the keyboard player that had started the project, was Ralph Goldheim, who worked at Oberheim, of course, in the 80s, and then he was one of the the founders of Alesis with Keith Barr. Ralph had left, so he left the company to go do some other things, and it left that product without a keyboard player. So I kind of came in and basically took over that role, and then quickly set about finding the best voicing guys we could. So of course we found Manny.
Yeah.
Andrew Schlesinger and Daniel Fisher, and just a lot of great.
Well, we've had both Manny and Drew on the show in recent. Well, actually, Manny hasn't been on for a while. I don't think, has he, Ben? When was the last time we had Manny? He's always in the chat, but he always feels like his presence is around. But we did a whole special, didn't we, with the Kodomo FM Essence FM synth, didn't we?
Yeah, that was it was good. It was a good episode. That really.
Yeah. I think with Manny is because of his day job, it's difficult to coincide when we go live and when but he does join us when he's got like a week off or something. He'll dial in. So did he dial into your show, Kent, from Hawaii? Was that yours?
Was that mine?
It was some. He dialed in remotely from Hawaii.
Yeah, he might be. I think he was briefly in then, and he was in. I think he came in 2 weeks ago, didn't he?
Yeah, because he had the grand piano in the background, didn't he?
That's it. Yeah. Oh, we love Manny. Cool. Well, it's wonderful. I think whenever we have guests on, they always mention a few names, and we're like, oh yeah, we know because we had them on. And it's this lovely community, and this it's brilliant. I love it. I absolutely love this community and everyone that's in it. So it's really cool.
Absolutely.
So, without further ado, let's go through some of the week's news topics, because there have been some very interesting things to discuss, and some of which involve our guest as well. So that's cool. And then we'll get to talk to Erik, and maybe in a little bit more detail. You can ask questions if you have any specifically for Erik. Just throw them in the chat. Don't forget to put big capital Q at the front of it so we can see it as it whizzes by, and then we'll drop that into our little section where we can pull them from a little later. So what should we start with? Let's have a look here. I suppose the biggest kind of plug-in news this week is the news that Korg... Honestly, my Mac has decided to say you need to give permission to Chrome, although I've done that ages ago. Let me just sort this out, because this could be a problem. I love the fact that I can use my Apple Watch to do all the password without having to type anything in. There we go. Right. Hopefully this will work now. So let's go to the tabs, and we'll find I don't know which one. Let's start off with this one. So basically they released 2 plugins, but these are plugins that we are very familiar with already, because they are plugins of hardware that already exists. And let me just... Oh, so many problems here. There we go. You can hear it. Now you can see it. So, Wave State and Op 6. Well, that's enough of that. I won't bother playing the Op 6 trailer. It's much the same, but of course lots of FME type sounds. But I guess the real key thing here is that Korg have, I think, pulled off a real masterstroke. And it's not something that they've just done at the drop of a hat. This is something that's clearly been on a roadmap. They've taken the 2 of their 3 most recent synths, the Wave State and the Op 6, and they've released them as native plugins for VST3 audio units. I think AX is in there as well. So you can use these in your DAWs. They are exact one-to-one replicas of the hardware, and because the hardware is actually all based around a Raspberry Pi compute board, so it was all software anyway. It was basically a plugin running on a Raspberry Pi board with a controller wrapped around it, so it kind of made sense. And in a world where components are very short and very expensive, it kind of makes sense to branch out into the software world. So I think that they've pulled off a real masterstroke here, and maybe that's a little bit of planning, maybe it's a stroke of good fortune, but these have gone down an absolute storm. I bought both of them because I've been thinking about buying at least one of these synths, but just didn't have anywhere to put them, and I wasn't too enamored with the slight plasticky feel of the casing, the fact it didn't have any aftertouch on the keyboard. But once you've got a plug-in and you can marry it up with whichever controller you want, you know, why wouldn't you do it? And they are superb plugins. let's go to our guest. Let's start off with Erik. Have you got any thoughts on the new Korg plugins? What are your thoughts about replicating hardware in software exactly the same whilst the hardware is still a current product?
It's something that we've been trying to do in music technology since the beginning. Of course, if you look at vintage digital hardware, like the GS1, for example, or even the DX7, or like the Lexicon 224X, or maybe even the best example is the Eventide, the vintage Eventide processors. So many of those things are available in software now, the same algorithms in any case.
Yeah.
But they don't sound the same as the vintage hardware. I think we're now reaching a point, maybe these two products are good examples of that, of where there's no longer a difference. Because there certainly was. I mean, you can't say that the Eventide plugin collection, which I have and I love and I use it, sounds the same as a vintage H3000 DSE. In fact, the gap in my rack there is because mine's being repaired at the moment. I think it's on its way back, and I have no interest in getting rid of it because it has a very specific sound, and the plug-in versions sound beautiful, but they don't sound exactly the same. Without hearing the Korg plugins, I would imagine that they do sound the same as their hardware. So that's quite a milestone for us, for our industry.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, when you take a vintage piece of digital equipment, we mentioned the DX7, which is always good because I'm a huge fan, as everyone knows. But they're still running off old digital to analog converters that have a characteristic, they're 12-bit on the DX7. And it certainly wasn't until the late 80s and early 90s where we started getting the pristine DACs that you probably can't tell the difference anymore. And so when you have these instruments that are built off a Raspberry Pi board, which I'm imagining that the DACs on these are fairly standard, they're going to be no worse than the DACs that you have in your audio interface on your computer. So yeah, I mean, they're really, I don't have the hardware and the software to compare, but we spoke to Mark Barnes last night, didn't we, Ken? Because Mark was on the beta testing team and he has the hardware and the software, and he says these are absolutely identical in terms of functionality and sound. It's just that you've now got an option whether you can buy the hardware or the software, and of course if you have the hardware you get the software for $50 and you can use it as a controller, as an editor, as a librarian, as a programmer, everything you can do. You can program all your stuff at home on your hardware and then just upload it to your computer, take it out live, and you just use the plugin live. It's a lot. The convenience is incredible. Ben, you've downloaded these this morning, so I know you haven't had a huge amount of time to play around with them, but your thoughts on these?
Yeah, well, I was never really interested in the hardware. I thought the form factor and the build quality just put me off. I was quite interested in the concepts of it, but I would have never have bought those particular things. And when I found out about the software, I was like, all right, yeah, I'll have a crack at this now, I think. Because it did, the concept of it is great. So I was in, but then I found out how much they were, and I was like, now it's that thing, isn't it, with software? I've got like Omnisphere, I splashed out a bit for that, but I'd rather have things a bit. I would have rather have had them both, obviously, for the price that I paid for, one. But when I bought them and I put them on this computer, I tried to download them in work and I couldn't really get any kind of quality out of what I was listening to. So I've installed it here, and they sound fantastic. They are really, really excellent sounding things. I haven't got the hardware versions, but I'd be quite willing to bet that they sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you forget you're using software after a bit. It doesn't sound like software at all. It's really, really impressive.
They're very good. I mean, Korg have got a good reputation, haven't they, with plugins?
I like the wave state more than the Op6 off initial impressions. You know, it's just like that thing's crazy.
Yeah.
The levels that you can build full tracks in that and just have them working as one note jams. The depth of that thing is unbelievable. It's a belting piece of software, and even though it might seem expensive, it's superb value, I think.
Yeah,
that one.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's where I've spent most of the last couple of days, is with the wave state rather than the Op6, because I love the Wave Station, and I have their Wave Station plugin, and this is like Wave Station times 10. You know, it's just, you know, they've really blown it, you know, and done some great stuff with it. And the Op6, I'll come to that, you know, because it's FM, so I'm familiar with, you know, what FM can do, but I'm very interested in how Korg have interpreted algorithmic FM, because they've thrown in a whole bunch of other stuff as well. So I'm looking forward to that. But the price, that was something that it delayed me by about, I don't know, 36 hours. When I first saw it, I was going to go, yeah, I'll buy that, and then $150 each. Actually, they're $199, but they're on an introductory offer of $149 each. So in pounds sterling, that's about 110, 115. Now, when you think about it, compare that to the individual plugins you get with Arturia, say, for example, which are excellent quality. They range between 99 and 199. So that, you know, really, you know, comparatively, they're no more expensive than many of the others. Yeah. However, if you want to buy all of the Arturia plugins, you can under one package and get, you know, then the price per synth drops dramatically. And Korg have got a collection, and that was where I was disappointed. I thought, look, I'm a Korg collection owner, so surely they'll give me some kind of loyalty discount, even if it's only $50 or $20. But no, not a thing. So I was like, I think maybe they'll put these in the Korg Collection 4, which might be next year or so, and then am I going to have to pay for them again?
I'm hoping that they don't now have to splash it out for them.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, there you go.
But the thing is, Korg's plugins, and they've done some really great plugins. They've not done a huge amount. What they've done really well. I think now we've got the Wave State and the Op6, and I'm assuming the Mod Wave won't be too far behind, because they're probably going to give it a little breathing space because it came out a little bit later. But they're amassing a suite, and we all know what happens when companies have these suites of instruments. Arturia, Roland, they'll go to maybe a subscription model or a larger bundle. But I've always had the Korg pricing has always been a little bit thorny for me, because it is a little, you know, comparatively a little bit more than most. The value for money you get with others is better.
Yeah.
I'm stop talking because I get told off for talking too much. Kent,
yes, Tim.
Anything from you? Are you because you?
Yeah, I'll stick my neck out a bit.
Could you turn your mic down just a little bit? Sorry, you're a little hot.
It's different.
It's just distorting a little bit. That's all.
Is that better?
That's much better.
Oh,
awesome.
cool.
I shall give you the floor.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's like for instance, when you got something like the Korg Mod Wave.
Of course, yeah, because you've got the Mod Wave.
You don't really have to worry about whether the plugin will sound the same, because essentially when you have the Mod Wave keyboard, you're playing software.
Yeah.
Just in a hardware box. So all they do is take the code and there you go, you can have that. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if this is Korg's, their roadmap is we want new plugins for Kronos 2.
True, that's a good point.
And we go, well, we'll do this, and we go, well, we got these, and Kronos 2 is a long way off yet because we can't get the parts and all the rest of it, blah, blah, blah. Let's release them as plugins. Yeah, brilliant idea, let's do that.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've heard them. Yeah, great. They're great, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think they might be expensive I mean, especially if you compare them with Cherry Audio and stuff like that, but it might be expensive because if they would go, these are $29 or something like that, there would be an awful lot of Korg hardware owners going, what?
Exactly, and there's
the
rub.
It bridges the gap a little between the people who bought the hardware, not knowing these were coming out.
Yeah. And
it moves it over a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're a hardware owner, you can now buy these at at $49, which gets you twice the synth now, and you get all the benefits of that kind of cross workflow. So between the hardware and the software.
As Erik said, I think it's an interesting point as well. This now, an interesting point in time, because if this is really successful for Korg, then other manufacturers might start following the same kind of delivery of hardware, then software to follow. And it might be that you could have most of the new digital synths as software versions.
If
it's
it's very true. A couple of interesting things. Number one, this has not been released as a VST2, and that's not at all surprising given that VST2 is now definitely gone. So if you, for example, if you are using Reason as your DAW, Reason 12, you can't use these. On a Mac, sorry. Nor can you use them, I don't think, on Windows, because it doesn't support VST3 on Mac or Windows, and so you're basically screwed depending on your platform. So I know that the guys at Reason have now, because they've just released 12.2.5, and they've now said, we've done with all the performance bits and stuff, we're now going to work on VST3 support finally. I mean, we've been asking for it for years, so you will eventually get it, but it's noteworthy that this has come out just as VST3 and audio units, and I think AAX. Not some people were asking if it was on AUV3 for iPads and stuff. Not yet, but I can't see why not. Again, the Korg are great for iOS apps if you're in that realm. I mean, I've still got iPoly 6, and I've got the MS, and I've got some of the Electribe stuff, and that still works on my really, really old, like 2nd gen iPad. So it's nice to have.
I still got them on the Oasis.
Oh yeah, of course.
There were plug outs for her as well, which is I thought this is what they're doing again. Keeping that tradition of the Oasis and the Kronos going.
No, you made a good point there. I think it's almost certain that we'll see that, because what was the one they just released, the Nautilus, that came with some of the stuff that you can buy in plugins built in, like the Poly 6 and all that so they've got to, haven't they? I think it'd be silly not to. Anyway, there you go. So Korg, Wavestate and Op6 native, they're the names. They are normally $199 US, currently on offer $149 US, and if you own a hardware Wavestate or Op6, then you can generate a code. I think you have to download the latest version of the app. You can generate a code. It will validate the fact that you've got the hardware. You can then enter that in and get the whole thing for $49, and away you go. Word of warning, if you download Wavestate, you will need to download, and it is free, so you don't have to worry about paying, but you will have to download the sample builder application if you want to use your own multi-samples within the Wavestate. But it's great, and if you do that, you can now take advantage of, because this is the great thing now, I can get my hands on Mark Barnes's 10 volumes of Wavestate presets, which are superb. So lots of good stuff there. So korg.co.uk or korg.com if you're in the US, they are available now from the Korg shop. Let's see, what have we got next? Another piece of software, and we mentioned these guys a few times, and they've just released a new product, and it is called World AI. It comes from Sample Logic, who do some fantastic contact instruments that are predominantly aimed at the scoring and the composer, the movie composer, the film composer, the TV composer. They come with these brilliant kind of engines and lots of samples in there. So let's have a quick look at the trailer for that. Sorry, I'm just getting used to the new layout that I've set up here. I'm not very good. Here we go. So there we go. That is World AI from Sample Logic, who do some amazing things. And I've been playing this again, trying to cram it in with all these new toys, and it is just their standard mode is inspiring. Every time you turn one of these on, you're instantly coming up with something. Oh, I like that. Oh, that would make a nice kind of loop, or something that will sit in the background I can build on. They're just so clever. And I don't do a huge amount of scoring work, but I can see if you are working to a really tight deadline and somebody says, I need something with a kind of an ethnic, maybe an Asian quality or an African quality, or maybe a European or Native American quality, you can find stuff and just start working really, really quickly. And they do some great introductory deals on these. We'll come to the prices in just a moment. But apart from myself, did anybody have a listen to this or a play with one of these at all? Have any comments?
I've not tried it myself, but that advert really really sells it. It's not my normal thing at all, like world music and those kinds of sounds, but the way that they've presented it there, and the sound quality and that, it's like, oh, sign me up. I'll have a go at this myself. Like, it's I'll stick it. I'll use it on the Blancmange track. I think that
oh yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely,
yeah. I think that's the only place I could use it unless I go down a bit more of a experimental route with my original stuff. But yeah, it looks like a great product though. It sounds awesome, and like I say, that advert just draws you straight in, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And they used to do all of this stuff with used to come with or work with the Native Instruments Contact Player, but I think the way that NI do all their stuff now has changed, so now they do them as just like standalone libraries that work within the regular Contact instruments. So you will need the full version of Contact to use these, but they make use of the wonderful Contact scripting engine, and some of the tools in there. You can get rhythms going. It's so very inspiring indeed. Eric, do you do any work where you're scoring to picture or composing for film or TV? Would something like this interest you?
It does, and yes, I do some of that. Mm-hmm. What's powerful about a product like this is not so much the sounds themselves, the samples themselves, although they sound beautiful, but the fact that you can have a beautiful sample of a koto, for example, but I don't know how to play a koto. Yeah. So I'm a keyboard player, right? And I'm a Western keyboard player, and I have, and to have some intelligence that when you call up a koto, that there's something that gives you some musical inspiration and puts you in the right direction. That's the real value for this kind of a product, I think.
Absolutely. No, it does have all of those features where you can set up arpeggiations, motion sequences. There's also a central panel. Let me just bring the screen back in here. So there's this central panel here with this little circle, which is basically like a virtual joystick. And just like with Wavestate, you can move between the 4 different samples, and each of those samples will be doing something different, but they're all synchronized. So you can play something down one part of the keyboard, and then play something else which is a slightly different sample, but it will all be in sync. And it's so simple to use. I mean, it really is like I hate to say it, like making music by numbers, but it just makes things so easy to do. And I can imagine that if you are someone who is churning out a lot of stuff and you're on a tight deadline, like our very own Ty Unwin, I'm not saying that Ty would need something like this, but maybe if you're in a tight spot and you just need to come up with something quickly, here's your answer. Maybe we'll have to ask Ty if he does use these. He's probably busy.
He's probably already got it.
Well, knowing Ty,
we'll have it. No, he'll have this. He will have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also it's not just about like chucking things out quickly, is it? It's like this might take you down a different path.
Inspiration,
it might just lead to somewhere where you would have never have normally gone. And I think things like that are just priceless, really.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I probably have somewhere in the region of about, last count, it was about 1,200 software libraries. But I've got these sounds in Spitfire and Project Samuel. what is, like Eric said, what's interesting about this is that because you have this performance animator with it, which is technically a performance sequencer, it takes all the work out of it and makes it more realistic. Because otherwise, you'd have to have multi samples and be putting, legato notes in, and then the next one would have to be, held sustained note, and so it sounds real. So obviously, you have this to do it for you, because they do software libraries that do this for guitars, and you play the keyboard in a very weird way. So you, by hitting the note, you're strumming, and depending on which note is which way you're strumming the guitar, but it works out what strings would have been held to what chord, so that when you play it, it sounds like somebody playing the guitar. So that's what makes that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, can I just ask you, I know I've asked you to stick your mic down. I just realised while you were coming through hot, and I've now made you so you're a little too quiet, so you need to just maybe boost yourself back up again a little bit. Sorry. It's that the platform can automatically adjust, and you got your echo cancellation on, and it was boosting it. So give us a 1-2.
1-2.
A bit more, maybe a little bit more heat.
Okay.
Oh, we're so professional on this show.
Yes.
1-2, 1-2.
That's better. I'm sure our audience will tell us, because they were very quick to tell us that you were coming through quite hot there. It's just that the system can balance everyone, and that had been turned off. I'll just go through while we're talking. But no, everything's cool. They also do these bundles now, because they've got so many different products, and that you can get this AI symphonic as well now, and that's a heck of a saving. From 900 down to 500. These are useful tools for you. That's a really, really great price. There's 7 gig of sample content, 592 instruments and presets, quad-core audio engine with step and effects animation, LFO, and the X1 core mixer, which we just spoke about. You can drag and drop MIDI pads to a DAW. It's such a flexible tool, and I've been a big fan of these guys for a long while. I've got a number of their tools, because they're just, I think, like you said, Ben, they're very inspirational. And even if you're not, using this for work per se, you can just get a good vibe going with some of these, and then maybe just go off in that direction. So there you go. That's Sample Logic World AI. It's out now. It's normally $399 US, but currently on offer introductory for $249.99, and of course there's the bundles as well. Right, we will come to that one just shortly. Very quickly, I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, because I haven't downloaded the update, so I can't tell you how good it is or how bad it is, and I know that not many people, when we've spoken about this before, not many people use this particular DAW, but Mixbus, Harrison Mixbus 32C has just launched with version 8. If you are currently a Mixbus 32C license holder, you can upgrade for like $79. Otherwise, it's about $329. Let's just bring that into the picture here. There we go. So Mixbus 32C is 329 UK pounds, but 79 or 75, I think, for the upgrade. But what they've done in this update, which is really interesting, and I am a bit upset with myself for not trying this, because I really was looking forward to it. But they've introduced functionality that very much resembles Live's clip functionality. So you can load up channels with 16-bar clips, 32-bar clips, and then just fire these off however you want to. It's not full replacement for something like Live, which has been doing that for years. But Logic did this a year or two ago in the, I think it was 10.6 upgrade, and now Harrison have said, okay, well, we'll put this into our software. And a lot of people use Mixbus as a secondary DAW when they're mixing. Once they've recorded everything, they'll mix it in Mixbus 32C, because it emulates that classic Harrison desk sound. And it looks like Harrison are saying, well, look, we need to compete with all these others on a fairly level playing field, and better way to do that than introduce functionality that's 21st century kind of stuff. So I know that I don't think any of you guys, unless Erik, and you have a history with Mixbus. I only have it, as I say, as a secondary, like a mixing DAW platform. But anybody got any thoughts on Mixbus kind of being dragged kicking and screaming to the 21st century? Don't all rush.
Not really. I haven't. I've never used it. I download it once and to try it out. But
yeah,
I didn't really fancy it after. But I believe it's been improved quite a bit. Isn't it based on Ardour or something?
Yeah. So at its core, it's Ardour, which was this open source platform that was Linux thing, and then kind of moved across, then became a complete Windows OS X Linux thing, and that's core. But then Harrison have taken that and given it their flow, shall we say?
Yeah, you
can get there's a version of it just like Mixbus, which is very affordable, and then there's 32C, which replicates the whole channel, the full channel strip of the Harrison desk. And if you don't want to use either of those, but you still want that Harrison sound, you can buy the 32C plug-in that you can throw into any of your DAWs of choice. So there are options there, but the Harrison sound is well respected. I think it's more respected over in America than it is, say, over here in Europe, because I think they're very American centric over with Harrison. But it's still a very good thing. Have you ever worked on any Harrison desks, Erik?
I have. Yes, there's a few studios in Los Angeles that had them anyway. Back when I worked there, and it was always a great desk for tracking. If you're doing a live full band, super powerful desk, and obviously a really specific sound.
Yes,
so
definitely,
yeah. I think with the DAW. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think with the DAW, obviously they're going for, a very stylized experience. Mm-hmm. But getting someone to switch DAWs is, almost like getting someone to, switch girlfriends. It's you're so used to what you work with and all of that it's hard to make that jump. But if someone wanted to go down that path, it looks like a very solid product.
Yeah, I wanted to show a video clip, because normally they'll do like a short video clip, but the only video clip that Harrison have put up is like 8 or 9 minutes long. So I've skipped ahead to the bit that shows the clip launching, because I think that would be of most interest to various. You have to excuse the noise in the background. I've got my window open because it's bizarrely warm here in the UK at the moment. So let's have a look. Let's see if we can set this running, and you can get an idea of what the clip launching is all about.
There's an all-new cue page that brings a familiar set of non-linear creative tools to Mixbus 32C. The new page includes a clip launch grid where you can drag, drop, and arrange your clips using an array of automated actions and grid controls. Even better, you can arrange the cues on your linear song timeline using cue markers, solving a frequent frustration of grid-based looping tools. Mixbus 32C includes a collection of bundled content that gets you started fast and comprehensive controls to manage your own clip collection. Or you can record to a track and bounce directly to a slot where you can loop and arrange cues on the fly. Our dedicated record page and
So there you go. That kind of gives you a flavour of the whole clip launching thing there. So I'd love to have had the time to. I'm definitely going to upgrade to it, but I haven't had a chance to play around, so I couldn't sort of comment on how good or bad it is. However, they Harrison have been doing some really great deals just lately, and one that they recently did, and I'm not sure if it's still going, is you can buy this, and you can also get like a bundle of plugins and also a 5-hour tutorial course. It's all cut into small chapters, but you can teach yourself Harrison Mixbus, and they throw that in for free. And I've had a little play with that, and it's done really, really well. Kent, you're a Cubase guy. Would this tempt you away from Cubase at all? No. Okay. Simple. Yep. Nice.
Nothing is taking me away from Cubase.
No. Fair enough.
Nothing. No, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Maybe
no,
Trevor Horn. If Trevor's like, oh yeah, do you want? I'll do it for you. Yeah, okay. Then I'll stop using Cubase. Otherwise, no.
You're set in your ways there. Absolutely.
Yeah, get off my lawn.
Excellent. Oh, there you go. So if you are interested in Mixbus 32C, just go to harrisonconsoles.com and you can find it there. So it's around $329 UK, probably around the same US. And if you are a Mixbus 32C license holder, you get the upgrade for a lot less than that. And I think you can also get a discount if you're just the regular version of Mixbus. You can get a cross-grade price as well. Right, that's those out of the way. So, let's quickly do this one because this is amusing. There's nothing to really talk about except that maybe there's a company out there that is out trolling the supreme synth trollers in the world. This was a really interesting thing. So this was posted about a week ago, or certainly at the beginning of this week. And it comes from our friends at CME. Of course, we all know CME. Everybody get a drink ready for Widdy. We all like Widdy. Everyone take a drink. There we go. Widdy, love it. But they put this blog post up. Well, actually, they started sharing pictures, I think, on their Facebook page. And they were blurred pictures of a mini key controller that looked distinctly like the Behringer Swing, which looks distinctly like the Arturia key step. And everyone was thinking, what's going on here? Is there a collaboration, maybe? Or maybe they're trolling the trollers. Or maybe they're copying the copiers. Who knows? But they put this web page up on their blog, and this little quote box only appeared in the last day or so because I think they were getting inundated with questions. But basically, they're saying they're going to introduce Swiddy, which is inspired by Behringer. They even call it out the headline there at the top of the post. And this is, to all intents and purposes, this is a Behringer Swing, but with a different name on it. And on the back, absolutely no connections whatsoever, because, of course, it's based on WIDI, which is wireless Bluetooth MIDI. And the power supply, apparently it's got a battery in it, and the power source is similar to the MagSafe type things that you get with Apple phones and watches and so on. And it's caused a bit of a stink, certainly in social media. Lots of people are, applauding CME for maybe giving Behringer a little bit of a bit of what they serve out themselves. Is it an April Fool's? Because, of course, in that blog post, it actually says, they put this quote at the top. Share your opinion in the comment section below. More details will follow exactly on April Fool's Day. Well, doesn't that defeat the whole point of April Fool's Day? You do the joke on the day. So I don't know what this is. I reached out to Thomas, who we've had on the show, and Zhao, who is heads up CME, and I've said, look, guys, what's going on? Is this a real thing? If so, can you give us some more information? And all they've said is basically what it says in that little pop-up box: wait and see. So really, I have no idea what's going on, but
I think it's an April Fool's that's kind of backfired on them, and that's why they put that there. It's like, leave us alone. It's obviously an April Fool's, and we can't announce it till the day.
But why not just wait until April Fool's Day, which is only a week away, 1 week today? So
yeah, well, I'd be very surprised if that came out. It just doesn't seem real, does it?
Yeah, I think somebody asked in one of their, I think it was on the Facebook page, can you give us some more information? Like, how much does this weigh? And I was so tempted to respond 0 grams, because I just really don't think this exists at all. I wonder, I had this thought last night, do you think this might be a preemptive strike that maybe Behringer have threatened to clone their WIDI technology, and they've got wind of it, and maybe this is like, oh well, if you're going to do that, we can do this. I don't know. But it's an odd one.
We'll soon find out. But it is a weird one. I don't think that they would actually put inspired by Behringer if it was genuine. I think they try and cover that up,
Just slightly.
Yeah. But it was an interesting thing to see a piece of Behringer news that wasn't made by Behringer this week, because the last few weeks, like everything, it's just like, oh, will you stop with your announcements? Who knows? Who knows what this is? But we will find out. I think by the time we do the show next week, where we've got Gaz Williams as our guest, that is on April Fool's Day. So hopefully we will have a clearer idea. But I just thought I'd throw that out there, and yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah. Right, let's talk about. So this is something that's very close to Erik here. So Erik, you do a lot of work with IK Multimedia, and you've been responsible for some of their hardware synths. You've been responsible for a lot of software that they've put out in terms of Syntronic and all the samples, and we're going to be speaking about another one of your products that features your samples in this little segment here. But there have been a number of interesting announcements from IK Multimedia this week alone. So let's start off with the one that we can't do much with because it doesn't actually come out until April, which I thought was a little odd that you kind of pre-announce a product that's software, because normally software is just like, here it is, and go and download it, it's ready now, whereas this is actually coming out in April. But it gives you a chance to save up, I guess. But this is the news that their physically modeled content. Let's just bring this up on the screen. I really must change my workflow here. So here we go. MODO Bass 2 is coming out in April, and here it is. Pino Palladino, isn't it?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Unmistakable fretless sound. There we go. That's enough of that. So MODO Bass 2 is coming, and if you haven't experienced MODO Bass as a physically modeled bass guitar plugin, it's really, really, really very, very good. And they've added double bass in there, a whole bunch of new bass models. So we'll actually talk about that in more detail when it comes out, which is next month. So hopefully not too long to wait, but that's on its way. So let's push that one to one side. Another thing that was announced was a free addition to Sampletron. Now, we love Sampletron. We love Mellotrons in general on this show, and we've actually got some other Mellotron type news, which we'll do after this. But IK Multimedia Sampletron, which didn't we give like 2 copies of that away over Christmas? We had some licenses for that, so we've got some users in the house. There's a new library for it, and it is contains samples from some tapes from Erik. I'm going to ask about those in just a moment, once I figure out what I'm doing here, and I'm going to play you the trailer so you can hear the damn thing. So here we go. This is Luca Zabini, who does some great demos for the IK product range. Let's bring this onto the screen, and then we'll press the play button, and you can watch it and listen to it. This is the Lost String Quartet. So there you go. That is, let me just turn this off here. That is the Lost String Quartet library. It is free for all Sampletron 2 users. All you've got to do is just go to the IK Product Manager and make sure you're running the latest version of Sampletron, and then there's a tab that says Sounds. Download that, and it installs it into the directory automatically for you. And all of those sounds that you heard there, all those string sounds, come from your very own library, Erik, which dates back how far?
I would say probably 35 years at the oldest.
So what's the story about those behind those samples?
Well, there was a product called Sampletron that IK released 15 years ago, something like that. Yeah. And this was done by a fellow named Dave Kersner, who is a Mellotron aficionado and has lots of different Mellotron and related instruments, some working, some not. And he put together that original collection. That was done using the Sample Tank 2 engine. Now we're all the way up to Sample Tank 4, and a whole lot has changed in those years. And so the company wanted to refresh the product. And so I brought in my own sample library of Mellotrons that I've owned and used over the year. I still have a beautiful M400S here, which was the one that was licensed to EMI. Yeah. It has a walnut case instead of a normal white case, which is neat. And then the thing that differentiates Sampletron 2 from just a collection of Mellotron samples is that we use the IK Multimedia tape modeling technology in it. And so not only do we have, the classic Mellotron sounds, of course, but we have some other sounds that are not from a Mellotron, that are just maybe acoustic instrument samples. But when you apply the tape modeling to them, they sound like Mellotron sounds. And you can adjust that dynamically. So the amount of wow, flutter, degradation, distortion, hiss, all of that. And it works really well once you actually play a track into your DAW, then to adjust those in real time with the mix, and it really lets the Mellotron sound like sit in a particular place in the mix. When I was putting that together, I went just through my whole library and just dug out samples that I'd done. I did a session, an album a few years ago in Ohio, and they had an Optigan there. Wow. And so I ended up using the Optigan, and I did some samples while I was there, and just things like that. So we released Sampletron 2 last year, probably about this time last year. And then I was going through just my discs, and I found a set that was, excuse me, solo cello, solo viola, and 2 solo violins that I had recorded years and years ago. And I'd actually recorded them to 2-inch tape onto a Studer A800 back in the day. And I think I had intended to use them like for an Akai sample library or something like that. But never got around to it. And I thought, oh, these are really nice. And the vibrato on the strings is a little bit wide and a little over the top, which is perfect for a Mellotron because a lot of those original recordings are that way. So we decided to release it as a free expansion for Sampletron 2, both desktop and the iOS version. And I think it sounds great. And Luca, he always does a beautiful job demoing the sounds. And that's really, what they're intended for. They've got a real nice, strong marcato attack. And then, as I mentioned, the really wide vibrato when they're sustained. So I think it's a great addition. It's a great product already. And I think this just makes it stronger. And what's interesting, and I know we are going to talk about an M-Tron Pro expansion later. I think M-Tron Pro is brilliant, and I've had that since the beginning, and I love everything that Dave Spears does, including his Christmas song. But he's taken one approach, and I think I've taken another approach with Sampletron, and the M-Tron Pro and Sampletron 2 are very different VIs, and I would recommend everyone to have both. But buy mine first, of course. But,
Absolutely.
Yes.
No, it's a really nice instrument, and you've got, I think, like you say, if you can afford to buy both, then do, because they come at it from different angles. And the IK Multimedia one has all of the classic Mellotron stuff that you would expect, but also a bunch of stuff that you wouldn't. Like, it's got a 360 Systems sounds in there, and you've got your sound. So there are elements to it that you won't get in one, but you get in the other. And so if you can stretch to both, go for it. They're both really, really good. I mean, I have both, and we'll use both together side by side, or they're very good. Ben, any thoughts on the Sampletron expansion?
Well, I don't have both, so I don't have this yet. But I'm hoping with your contacts, you might be able to set me up with the thing. And
I'll speak to Paul. Yeah.
I'll have a look at it. But it sounds fantastic. That demo is brilliant, and it I don't know, the quality sound. It's got that Mellotron kind of degradation almost, but not. It's got that quality, but it still sounds really kind of rich. Which it's a very good sound set from the looks of it.
Yeah, and it's only 30 megabytes. It's quite a low footprint as well, isn't it? And
right.
It's very nice, and of course it's free. It's free. Any thoughts, Kent?
Yeah, I think I'd like to have that actually.
Yeah,
as it goes, because it's, well, apart from the fact it's something I don't have, therefore I have to have it. And so, but yeah, definitely. So, because I like playing with bass. I've been with M-Tron since the beginning. What's that?
Also,
yeah. So, but the good thing with M-Tron is that Dave kept giving them to me for free, which was
it's always
always
a bonus,
helps.
isn't it? Yeah,
far more
always
attractive. I'm sorry, but there you go. So
I'm sure we can speak to Paul and get something sorted.
We'll see how it goes. I don't mind spending a little money. I'm used to it.
There you go. Well, anyway,
I want to. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to bring up a point in response to that you guys have mentioned. I think in recent years, a lot of people have used Mellotron as a lo-fi instrument. With a tape warble, the highs are really rolled off.
Yeah,
it's distorted and all of that. But I see a lot of I recognize a lot of gray hair in this chat here. That when we were all younger, you think of albums like the Moody Blues albums and the Yes albums and even something like Space Oddity by Bowie, and that was very hi-fi. That was like super audiophile hi-fi, and I think that a lot of people just associate the Mellotron with lo-fi, and it's not that. And I think Luca's demo shows that off very nicely. When we gave him instructions, we said we want you to do something that sounds like a hi-fi audiophile recording made in 1969.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you listen to Tomita, that was where I really first noticed the Mellotron on Snowflakes Are Dancing, and I had no thoughts about that's an old crunchy kind of sound, because it wasn't. It was up there with the Moogs that he was using as well. So it was definitely absolutely. Talking of Mellotrons, while we're on the subject, we have, as we've mentioned, M-Tron. There's a new expansion pack and something a little extra too. So Hainback is a hugely popular synthesist. He does amazing sample libraries with the weirdest gear in the world. And he's got this amazing smile, by the way. Can I just say, that is a smile and a half. But he's done an artist expansion pack for M-Tron Pro, and he sampled some of his most weird and wonderful gear and stuck it through. And I guess they've done the same with this as they did with Alex Ball's expansion pack, where they take the recordings and then put them onto tapes, then put them into a Mellotron, and then sample them back from the Mellotron into the instrument itself. So there's just a whole bunch of great instruments. There's over 150 patches in this pack, and at the moment it's just a mere $24.99 UK, $49.99 full price, but they're very generous with the length of their offers. So that one's going to be around for a while. I was going to play you the demonstration video, but it's quite long and in depth, and you'll probably be best checking it out for yourself when you've got spare 10 or 15 minutes, because he really does go into a lot of detail about how he went about this. So do that. However, it is worth pointing out that this is the first sound pack that features this new thing called M-Tron Select. So I guess if you think, Contact and Contact Player, Falcon and UVI Workstation, now M-Tron Pro has its own free player where it does away with the all the programming capabilities, and here it is on your screen here. It does away with all the intricate programming capabilities of M-Tron Pro, but allows you to use the M-Tron sample libraries that it's assigned to, because I think this is only available at the moment with the Hainback package. But you don't even need to have M-Tron Pro to use this. You can just use the free player, which I think is a very cool move indeed.
Yeah, that's a great move, that.
Because again, it opens up your audience, and once people start playing with this, they think, oh, this is good, and they'll go and buy the full product. So any thoughts on the Hainback library? I haven't had a chance to play with it, and I haven't had a chance to play with the free player, but do we all think this is a good thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Cool.
It's a great thing. It looks fantastic.
Absolutely. Strength to strength, GForce they're ramping up, aren't they? At the moment, they're doing some amazing stuff, and hopefully more from them in the coming year. Right, let's go back to IK Multimedia, because one of the niggles that I've had with getting patches for my UNO Synth and my UNO Drum and my UNO Synth Pro and everything else is I've had to go to lots of different places and download files and install them. Now there is a central location, certainly a centralized service that all comes through the IK Product Manager, which is a really cool thing to have. I do like companies that have an application that just handles all of the installs and the downloads and the updates. And this is the news that IK Multimedia have launched UNO Sounds, and hopefully this will expand further as time goes by. But this is like a one-stop shop now. You can go to your IK Product Manager, go to your instrument, and just download the sounds through there, rather than having to navigate through the website. And our very own friend, Suit and Tie Guy there, almost front and center, his face, lovely face, staring out at you there. And loads of sounds available now from people like Jacob Hack, as well as Suit and Tie Guy and DMX Crew and DJ Tag, or TAG, or however you want to pronounce that. UNO drum samples, UNO Synth, and UNO Synth Pro patches, all available now through the IK Product Manager. So make sure you go and update that if you've got any of these. And there's loads and loads of free content, and all the demos there as well. So lots of great stuff. Eric, anything you want to say about the UNO Sound centralization?
It's a great way to just download a huge amount of presets for the instrument, and it works obviously well with the UNO Synth editors that run as plugins. So you can actually have an editor for hardware running as a plugin inside your DAW. And of course, it will save the state. So if you do something in real time and you're automating controls in your DAW session, that will all be saved when you open up the session the next time, and it will communicate with the hardware and sync to it. So I can't say it's exactly the same as Korg releasing the exact same synth in software, but this is an analog synth with actual analog circuitry and the beautiful SSI chips and all of that. So Yeah, it's a great way to just expand the library. And I always encourage people, with the UNO Synth, just start turning knobs and see what happens. You're not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We all know how fun it is to just sit in front of a great sounding analog synth and explore.
Definitely. I was blown away with the quality of the original UNO Synth from such a small little box. It was just a cracking sound that you got out of it. And then of course UNO Synth Pro is just next level, with the paraphony and the expanded features and more knobs per function, and that's just a really, really nice synth. And it's gone down really well, the UNO Synth Pro, so nice to see that. UNO Sounds is available. If you have your IK product manager, just go straight in there, find your instrument, and all of the links for all of the available libraries are there for you to download, and it makes it all very nice and very easy. Let's talk about a couple more things, then we're going to speak to Erik in a bit more detail. This one was quite interesting. This is the third generation, I believe, of Appice's MPK Mini. And this, I kind of looked at these originally and thought, they're a little bit cheap and plasticky and stuff. But this version actually seems to have... let's show the video first. So now no longer just a controller, it actually has built-in speakers, it has built-in sounds, battery powered, a new keyboard mechanism, can be used as a controller or as a standalone device, even has a joystick in there as well. And of course works with their free MPC beats. Actually looks more robust than the originals. I actually think I might get one of those for when I do travel around, because it does look like a nice little thing.
I've got the original. It's not that like flimsy or anything. It's quite
right.
Well
Okay. Yeah. Because you use that for. Is it? You were saying the other week you're testing your MIDI light rig and everything. You do that through an MPK Mini.
Yeah, I have that in my laptop bag. Just in case I ever get caught in a musical emergency. And
caught in a musical emergency.
Yeah, we need a quick tune.
What would one of those be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a great keyboard, the one that I've got, and now that they've added the battery, that's great. A built-in speaker, probably wouldn't use that too much myself, but the audio interface element of it's got something like 100 sounds built into it as well, hasn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't say whether you can add anything to it, but
100 presets will probably become old very quick, won't they?
Yeah. But if you're using it as a sketch pad and then you go back to the studio, you can just
you just need a drum kit, don't you? A couple of bass sounds and you're off, really, I suppose. But yeah, it's a great idea. Again, they seem to be on form at the minute.
They are, yeah, definitely. Kent, I imagine this isn't up your.
No, as an agoraphobic, I don't need a little keyboard I can carry around with built-in speakers. And I'm a fully paid-up member of the Cork Sniffer Society, so no. But I think it's a bloody brilliant idea.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
It's really going to, like you say, pop it in the bag when you're, working away from home or whatever. Well, you just want to go and sit out in a field and be attacked by seagulls and make up little tracks. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
But I can't...
30 years ago, that's when I would have wanted it, really.
Yeah. I mean, I can't see anyone, certainly myself, using the speaker that much because it doesn't look that big. And one of the criticisms I had of Roland Boutique stuff is that why bother with a little speaker in there? Because it really doesn't do the synth any favours. But, nice pair of headphones and a decent set of batteries in there, and you could be
It'd be good
knocking
to
up
be
your
framed
neighbours.
with one as well.
Yeah.
Sitting in a field being attacked by seagulls.
Yeah, I'm being attacked by mosquitoes, I think. I think that was a mosquito. March. This is March. What are
Maybe
mosquitoes
it was a
doing?
tiny bird.
It could have been. I've got the window open. This is the first time I've done the show with the window open because it is so warm at the moment.
So is this like a multi-timbral thing? Is it got like 28 notes polyphony or something? Or is it just basically... It does.
I think
like
that's a bit of a stretch.
No, yeah, I was just wondering what you could do with it.
So it says you can have 14 hours of battery power, 25 key Gen 2 dynamic keyboard, whatever that might be, larger built-in speaker with increased volume and low-end response, 8 MPC pads, 4 assignable knobs to control MIDI parameters, and an assignable joystick. I didn't see that the first time round. The joystick's quite an interesting thing. I wonder if that works as maybe a joystick controller for things like wave state if you plug it into your laptop. 100 internal drum and instrument sounds, an OLED display, headphone jack, USB powered plug and play class compliant. But I'm just looking for... here we go. There's a specs tab here. Right, here we go. So velocity sensitive keyboard. Where's the polyphony? Does it give you voice count? It doesn't. That's odd. Doesn't even give you that. So 8 pads, 2 banks, 4 samples, USB, 10 octaves with transpose, arpeggiator.
I'm just curious as how they imagine that you'd use it. Is it mainly a controller and you might use it for one patch? Or...
I don't know. I think it's kind of multi-use, isn't it? It's like you see, in your hotel room or out at the beach or at the park, you can start knocking things up, then bring it back in.
But if you say like, all right, I've got my laptop and I've got my MK, what's it called, and I want to knock up a tune. Am I capable? Is it capable of hosting all of the music itself? Or is it intended as a mobile controller that, say, if I don't know, a string pad is a little bit too heavy on your laptop, then that's what that can. Unless it does it all.
I'd say you could probably get 8 to 16 tracks on that.
Yeah,
and about 64, because that's not outside the realms of possibility on a 1-inch chip.
Yeah. But then the polyphony's relevant, isn't it? They should really mention it.
It doesn't make any mention of voice count. It just says 100 plus or 128 plus onboard instruments and drum kits that range from acoustic and electric piano, synths, leads and pads and more. But it doesn't say anything about how many notes, the capacity of anything there. So it doesn't even say the price. I have no idea what the price is on this.
4-note polyphonic.
4-note.
4-note polyphonic, $8,000. It is.
So let's go to the man with a huge synth collection of huge synths. Does something as small as the MPK Mini appeal to you, Eric?
It does, and Ben made the joke about musical emergencies, but and it's valuable for that. And musical emergencies do come up. The first thing I thought of when I was looking at this product is I've done quite a few of these rock cruises where you go out on a cruise ship and with a bunch of other bands, and on at least 2 of them, because of interactions with other bands or because of a tragedy that happened or something like that, you need to change the set.
Yeah.
And okay, if you're a guitar player, okay, you pull out your guitar and you go, okay, we're going to learn that one, and you have it on your iPhone and you can learn it. Well, what am I going to do? I can't. It's hard to bring a synth into a cabin on a cruise ship. I've done it, but it's difficult. Something like this would be brilliant for that because you just pull it out of your backpack and you can learn the song right away.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah. Or if you want to do an impromptu writing session with someone, or you're on a long drive in the car and suddenly you have a good idea and you just want to do a quick mock-up. I think those kinds of musical emergencies would be perfect. for this kind of a product.
Yeah,
I don't know that it would have too much value like in a studio or even a simple, bedroom studio, but I could be wrong. If you were not necessarily a keyboard player and you just wanted something, to mock up parts or just put a string pad down or a little synth bass part, it could be great for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in a world where we've got iPads that you can do full compositions on, this is an alternative to that. It's a physical alternative with actual things that you can grab and play with, and it looks an interesting little thing. Appic's MPK Mini Play Mark III. Out now, but I don't have a price for you. I do apologise. I will do some research if I can fit that in between. But what I want to do now, because I'm very conscious of the time, I want to talk to Erik. So let's see. I first encountered you, sir, and I apologise. I should have probably encountered you sooner, but I encountered you in this great video demonstration at NAMM of the Alesis Fusion. You had an 8HD and you had some kind of modification shoved in the back that threw up the screen onto a big projector behind you, and you were just going, doing all your cool stuff on this thing, and it sounded amazing even though it looks slightly bizarre. But you've been going for way beyond there. So can you give us maybe a little potted history of Erik Norlander, where you come from as a musician, how you started in the business, and where you've been, sort of doing your stuff over the years?
A potted history, that will be the difficult part. I grew up in Los Angeles and, just played music all through school, through college. Mm-hmm. I started off, I started playing piano when I was 8 years old, just taking piano lessons like a normal kid does.
Yeah.
And then I got into woodwinds. In junior high and high school, I played saxophone and clarinet. And then I played my first synthesizer, which was stretching the limits of the word synthesizer. It was a Roland RS-09 organ strings.
Okay, yeah.
Little string machine. And I thought, this is just the coolest thing I've ever heard. I got to get into this. So I ended up buying it from a friend. And then I ended up getting the companion synth, the SH-09, which was an actual synth. You do the thing where you could run the raw organ wave, as they called it, of the RS-09 through the filters of the SH-09 and get like paraphonic stuff going. And I ended up, just diving in head first into synths. And I, played in bands all through school and through my 20s and all that, and just started acquiring gear as we do. And I was very keen on learning how it all worked, because especially in the early 80s, presets were not really a big thing. In fact, it was sort of a badge of honor that you made your own sounds. And on something like a Mini Moog, of course, there are no presets. But I ended up getting an Oberheim OBX eventually, which I was able to get for a really good price because I think the OB8 had come out by then, or at least the OBXA. And, I never even touched a factory preset. Like, I just had to dial in everything myself and, for every song, and, set up your patches in a way that you could page through them, as the set went on. And then when I do studio sessions, I'd spend quite a bit of time programming ahead of time, and you really want to show up prepared because, back then, recording studio time was incredibly expensive, and you're recording onto, 2-inch tape, which costs, I think it was something like, $150 or something like that for a reel of 2-inch tape with 15 minutes at 30 IPS. So, we took it all very seriously back then. Not to say that we don't take it seriously now, but there was a real reverence. And I ended up, of course, I got involved in sampling as well with, I had an Ensoniq Mirage and then an EPS. And then, of course, then I think I got an Emax Emulator 2 and went through all of that. And then I got an S1000, and that really changed everything. And I maxed it out to 32 megabytes.
Wow.
And then I ended up getting a second one, and then a playback unit, and another playback unit. And there's a photo I have on Facebook somewhere where you see my old studio, and it's like 10 S1000s in the background, which would be 320 megabytes of RAM. But, sampling was also a challenge because of the size. You couldn't just, sample every note from start to finish, and that was it. I mean, you had to, loop things and trim them very tightly and experiment with different sample rates. And that skill actually led me to my first job in the industry, which was with Alesis, where I had done some samples for the Quadrasynth, and then after they had released the Quadrasynth, and it had some challenges because Ralph Goldheim, the resident keyboard player there, had left the company. And so I kind of came in to try to resurrect the Quadrasynth, and the first product I made as my own product was the Quadrasynth Plus, where we did this. We added a new stereo grand piano and then revoiced it with the help of people like Manny Fernandez and Drew Schlesinger, and all the people we mentioned. And then we ended up making the QS series, the QS8, 7.6, and QSR. And those were actually extremely well designed. And thanks to, just a really great team of people from, the mechanical side all the way to the software side. We had Marcus Ryle and Fast Forward Designs doing the software, which, are serious heavyweights in the industry. And those did so well that I was able to get the ear of Keith Barr, the owner of the company, who loved making ASICs, specific circuits, application-specific integrated circuit. And he'd always done digital ASICs for the MIDI Verb and the ADAT, of course, and the synth. And I remember it was Christmas Eve, I'm going to say 1995 maybe. And we had a bottle of J&B Scotch. Sorry, we weren't connoisseurs back then. And he and I just ended up sitting in a corner and drank this bottle of J&B Scotch. And I convinced him, I said, Keith, we should make an analog synth. And you should design an analog ASIC. Like the Curtis chips and the old SSM chips, they weren't really available back then. He knew all about them, and he would tell, the minute I'd bring up a name, he's like, oh, Doug Curtis. I don't need, go on about this whole story. And he said, really, you think people would buy that? And I said, yeah, they definitely would. So why don't, Keith, why don't you design, an oscillator chip and a filter chip, and we'll make this analog synth. And that was really it. So thanks to a bottle of J&B Scotch, we have the Andromeda. And Keith actually designed two custom chips from the ground up with the help of our engineering team. I had a meeting at NAMM, must have 2005, 2006. No, I'm sorry, 95 or 96. I'm getting my decades wrong. And I actually was able to get Bob Moog to come to the meeting with the idea that he would be the electrical engineer on the project.
Okay.
And Marcus Ryle was in attendance. I just assumed that he would be able to do the software. And none of that happened because Bob was working on the Voyager at the time.
Right.
And so he was not able to take on, something else. But he stayed in touch, and he would send me faxes periodically.
Nice.
And I would always take the faxes, back to the engineering group, like Moses coming down from the mountain, like, Bob Moog is asking this. So, and then, of course, Marcus was not able to do the software because they were starting Line 6 at the time.
Right. Yeah.
So we ended up having a completely different team in the end. So, here's a good question. Do I have the schematics for the Andromeda ASICs? I do not. And in fact, I've actually tried to get that in the past and remake those chips. And I've spoken with, the original Keith Barr is sadly no longer with us, but Frank Thompson and some of the other ASIC team, we've discussed remaking those chips and making new dies and going about it. The general consensus from people that are smarter than I am is it just doesn't make sense to do that now. They say you'd be much smarter just making a new chip on your own rather than trying to resurrect that. And of course, now we have SSI back in the game,
of course,
with Dave Rossum and Dan Parks, who are just making amazing chips. So I would love to do it. I would love to do it for legacy, because I think the Andromeda sounds unique.
But I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Wagyu asked the same, because we had Dave Bryce on the show a couple of weeks ago. You must know Dave, of course. And I think we asked the same question of him, and he pretty much gave the same answer. So
I went as far as going to Mark Frederick and at In Music, and asking if Jack O'Donnell would be interested in selling the Andromeda product. Would you be interested in selling it to me? And Mark, went to him, and he came back and said, we just don't know what we would sell you. What are we going to give you? The rights to the name, and we can give you some, schematics and tech notes, but you probably already have those. And so, there was a lot of interest in maybe making a second generation Andromeda, and I tried really hard to make that happen, but just doesn't seem like something that will ever come to pass.
Yeah, maybe. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Kickstarter.
So what happened after Andromeda for you then? What was the next thing in your world?
I left Alesis around 1998, and I just had some really good music opportunities, and I had some nice record deals and touring opportunities. And so I did that pretty much full time for about 10 years, but I did dabble in the synth industry here and there. You mentioned the Fusion. That was a good example. I wasn't involved in the design of it at all, but my friend Taiho Yamada, who was also on the Andromeda team, he was the product manager for the Fusion, and he was looking for some help to come in and finish the sample editing and the voicing of it. And that was around 2004, 2005, I think. And I ended up doing a NAMM demo as well, which is it's become semi-legendary. And I remember what I did is I had in 1999 I had made an arrangement, a synth-heavy arrangement of the Space 1999 theme.
Oh right!
Wow!
And
Classic.
So I ended up doing the Barry Gray composition.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing a version of that with the Fusion. Cool. At NAMM 2005, and I know it's on YouTube and all that somewhere.
Yes.
But it's amazing the number of people that come up to me and comment on that one video. I've done music videos for songs I've actually written from really great sounding albums that have received less attention than that NAMM video. So
that's the way it works.
Right, it is.
So you're now involved with IK Multimedia in a number of ways. So tell us a little bit about that. How did that all come about?
It's funny. It's sort of like it happened a little bit like the Alesis story. I ended up licensing a bunch of Moog samples to them for their original sample Moog product from my modular system and Mini Moog, Taurus, a few other things. And I just ended up kind of getting to know the guys at the company, and also my friend Dave Kersner, who did the original Sample-Tron. His brother Gary runs the U.S. Side of IK Multimedia, and I just started doing some sound design for them, and pretty much it turned into a full-time thing. I think the first sound design job I did was a library for Sample Tank 3 called Cinematic Percussion.
Oh, yes.
Which I did with my friend Greg Ellis, who is just a wonderful drummer and percussionist in Los Angeles who does a lot of film work. He played on most of the Iron Man movies and the Zack Snyder movies like Watchmen and Sucker Punch and those, and newer things as well. I like all those movies, so I always bring those up. And it was like, what's the Al Pacino line? They keep pulling me in.
Yeah.
And I ended up working on Sample Tank 4, and then and before that, Syntronic came because that actually came before Sample Tank 4, because they wanted to do a refresh of Sample Moog, much like we did with Sampletron here last year. And so I said, oh yeah, I've got a huge amount of content we could use, and now it's not it's modern times, and now we can have a 80 gigabyte library if we want. We don't have to limit it to smaller sizes. And I think it came about because Mike Adams at Moog didn't want to continue the license, that they wanted to focus on their own software products, and so they didn't want to license the name Moog anymore. And so Enrico Iori, the owner of IK, said, well, Erik, why don't we just make a product with all synths, not just Moog synths, but all synths? He said, do you have any content for that? I'm like, do I have any content for that? I've got, terabytes of that kind of stuff. And so we made the first Syntronic that way. Yeah. And that was very successful. And then we went on to do Sample Tank 4, which updated the engine quite a bit, and added, a lot of the developments we had done for Syntronic, like the 500 series style effects rack that's now ubiquitous in all of the IK products. Yes. And some of the modeled filters that we had done for Syntronic, and even the modeled effects, like we modeled the famous ARP string ensemble Selena chorus, and also the chorus from the Roland Juno 60 and the RS-505, which I think sounds fantastic. And it's just kind of gone on from there. I ended up last year, I made a bunch of libraries. I worked on a collection called Cinekinetic, which is a collection of libraries. The first one is called Shipwreck Piano, and this is a like cinematic, super cinematic, like vibey kind of broken piano. There was an upright piano that I recorded years before, but then the twist is I recorded rooms from like the Quantec Room Simulator and the Eventide unit and the Lexicon 224X, and I sampled those for every note as if it was a room mic sample. Right. And I recorded 30-second decays, or on the Quantec you can do I think 70 seconds or something crazy like that. And of course, I put them at a appropriate sample rate so they wouldn't waste space. I don't remember exactly where they ended up, but the Quantec I think rolls off at like 9 kilohertz or something like that. So it was easy to do. And then there were two other libraries, mallet libraries called Malletopia and Mallet Tension, and they took a similar approach where I had the sampled spaces and all of that. And then I did, after that, an electric piano collection called Electromagnetic, and it was, Rhodes Mark V, Yamaha CP70, Wurlitzer 120, which is kind of an interesting one, and Rhodes piano bass. So those are all libraries for Sample Tank 4 that I'm really happy with them all. Yeah. And then, of course, we did Sampletron 2, and then now Syntronic 2, which is the latest one. Yeah. So
there's a lot of stuff in that. There's a lot of stuff in there, isn't there?
So Syntronic 2 now uses the Sample Tank 4 engine instead of the Sample Tank 3 engine of the original Syntronic. The original library was 80 gigabytes, and the Syntronic 2 Max library is about 210 gigabytes.
Yes.
So we went from 22 synths up to 33, and I've added some, rare synths like the Yamaha GS1, the Synergy DK2, Prophet VS, the Oscar. Let's see, I'm looking at them all here. Oh, the Octave Cat SRM. That's a nice one. What else? The Moog Source.
That Galaxy looks a bit familiar.
Yes, that's my favorite. Done. Yeah, that's probably the closest we're ever going to get to an Andromeda VI, and it was great. I actually had Daniel Fisher actually helped with presets for that, and Taiho Yamada. So Taiho who was the last product manager for the actual Andromeda, wrote presets for the Syntronic Andromeda Galaxy.
Nice.
So that's and so we added the usual more effects. We added a step sequencer, and then the biggest thing that we added is, in addition to the skinned GUIs that look like the original synth, there's also a deep edit page that you can now go to that gives you significantly more functionality than the original hardware. So we have 4 oscillators and 2 sub oscillators, and you can of course choose what sample sets you want in each of those, and then a modulation matrix, and what is it? 6 LFOs, 4 envelopes that can all be routed hither and yon.
It is. It's deep. It is very deep,
Yes.
and there's lots of content in there. I want you to tell me about this thing, the Wall of Doom. Let me do that again. The Wall of Doom. Is this what you've got around the corner that you said we couldn't see? Is the Wall of Doom there?
Yes, it is.
Tell us about what's in. Tell us what's in this thing.
That I actually have two sets of cases for it. That's the traveling version, the one that it's in now is a triple wide 42 space rack, where it's all mounted in one case. That I did actually take to Europe once for a tour, and I think it cost $10,000 to take it there and back. So you had to play a lot of gigs for that to pencil out. But it's a modular Moog system, mostly from April of 1967. Okay. I was born in July of 1967, so it's just slightly older than I am. It's a 22 oscillator system. It has 7 filters, and I don't know how many envelopes and VCAs, but a lot. I started restoring it in 1995, and I actually recorded it. It went into service on an album for the first time in 1999. Okay. So it took 4 years to restore. I started with a fellow named Kevin Leitner, who is a brilliant synth tech in LA, who's sadly no longer with us. Yeah. And then it was finished by a woman named Julie Yarbrough, who was actually the electrical engineer on the Andromeda. Oh, wow. And it has, in addition to the modules I listed, some custom bits. It has 3 custom 16-channel mixers that are intended to be oscillator mixers. Okay. And I actually added sub-oscillator divide-down circuitry on each channel, because they're just meant to mix oscillators. So I guess you could run regular audio into them if you wanted as well. But it does, the trick where you square off the wave and you double the period so that it drops by an octave or 2 if you quadruple the period. And it does that on the mixer level. So, yes. And someone's asking if I performed at the first Moog festival. I didn't, not the first Moog. So the first Moog Fest was in New York City. They used to have it at B.B. King's Blues Club. And I didn't do the first one. I think I did the 3rd or 4th one, which was the last one they had in New York City, with Jordan Rudess, Adam Holtzman, and Thomas Dolby. Yeah. And then the year after that, it moved to Asheville, North Carolina, where Moog is located, and I performed at that one. In fact, that picture that you just put up was from the first Moog Fest in Asheville. And interestingly enough, if you can put that back up again, the stand is quite interesting. If those look like beer kegs, that's because they are beer kegs. Michelle Moog, who's a great friend, she came up with this great idea with a local Asheville brewery to make a short run of beer called Moog Filtered Ale.
Yes.
And I still have a unopened bottle in my library where it will remain. But yeah, in theory, that the modular synth was sitting on top of barrels of Moog Filtered Ale. And I actually did a concert at the Orange Peel, which is a really nice venue there in Asheville, using this setup as well. And again, it was set up on the beer kegs.
Sweet. Because you also you do some work with the Bob Moog Foundation still, don't you? I do,
yes. Yeah, definitely. I've worked on some sound libraries for them. I contributed to the first Spectresonics library, the Bob Moog Tribute Library, and then I worked a lot on the Mo2 Encore Sound Bank.
Yes.
I was sort of the product manager for that.
Cool.
And I got to work with a lot of great people on that. In fact, Kent, I think you contributed some CS80 samples to that.
I think I was on that. Yeah,
I think that may have been where you and I first crossed paths, if I recall. But yeah, it was fantastic. And Peter Gorgas from UJAM contributed to that as well, and all of that. Lady Aptitude, we need a syntronic version of the Wall of Doom. Actually, that's a great idea. It is in there. It is in there. There's a product called, a library called Minimod. No relation to the Eurorack line, because this was done before that, I think. But Minimod includes samples of the Wall of Doom, in fact, mostly the Wall of Doom, but also Minimoog. So at the time, I didn't feel it was needed to separate the two. But now that we're doing even bigger and bigger libraries, it might be nice. So maybe in the future, I will do that and split it out into its own library, just so you can call it Wall of Doom. That alone. Oh, and by the way, you probably have no interest whatsoever in where that name came from, but I will tell you anyway.
Yeah, go for it.
I was playing a festival it was in Southern California somewhere, and it was like a prog rock festival, and they had all these bands, and the festival organizers had this idea of, oh, you know what, we should hire a solo keyboard player to do like an EM kind of set, because it'll be so much easier than setting up a whole band. So they hired me to come in and be that, solo keyboard. And then, of course, I show up with this thing. And it was like, twice the size of a full band's gear. Yeah. And I remember the band that was going on after me, they were like in the dressing room next door. And one of the guys said something like, I don't know how they're going to get that Wall of Doom out of the way. But he just said it off the cuff, and all of us in my dressing room just thought that was the greatest thing ever. And so instantly that's what it was called.
Cool.
And we did get it out of the way.
Yeah. Andy, who is in California, goes under the name of Synth Addict. He wants to know, did you work on anything like the Ion, Micron, Akira, or Wedge while at Alesis? Was that before, or was it during or after your time there?
Okay, I'll take them one at a time. The Ion was after my time, but I did do voicing on it. I wrote a good amount of the presets for that. I was not involved in the design. It was a guy named Ben, and I don't remember Ben's last name, but a super bright guy that had done that. The Akira I didn't have anything to do with. The Wedge, I had nothing to do with, but that was done during my time, and I remember a fellow named Dave Simpao, who was a DSP engineer working on the algorithms for that, and he would just keep sending impulses into his reverb algorithms to dial them in, and I remember that went on for a good 2 years or so before the wedge came out.
Yeah.
So I still have one.
Cool. What's the product you're most proud of working on, or having been involved with, whether it's at a design level or a sound, input level? What's the one that you would say, yeah, this is the one I'm going to hold up as the most proud thing, or thing I'm most proud of?
It's a difficult question, and I will give you a nuanced answer. I would say for a hardware product, I think the Andromeda would definitely be the one. That's a fantastic instrument. I have two regrets. One, that I didn't stay long enough to see it through to the end, and I will thank Taiho Yamada and Rob Rampley and the guys for doing that. David Bryce also.
Yeah.
My only regret, aside from that, is that Alesis was known for making low-cost products, and this was already a very expensive product. We wanted it to be a $2,000 product. By the end, it was a $3,000 product, and I think shortly after it came out, they raised the price to $3,500. It should have been a $5,000 product, and it should have been made out of more metal and wood, like Oberheim, Moog.
Yeah.
So the sequential synths, the classic American synths. There's a lot of plastic on it, and it breaks because of that. And actually, that's kind of how Syntronic came about, which would be my second part of my nuanced answer.
Sure.
I'm very proud of that because, it really is all my own sounds. And it's rare that, you get to do like a product that big that is solely your content.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely proud of that, and that's really something. But Syntronic actually came about because I started sampling my synths, because I would go on tour and take things like the Andromeda and my Moog Voyager, and we'd do fly-in dates, and I'd have them in flight cases, but then, you'd be at baggage claim and you'd see them like cartwheeling down the retrieval area, and it's like, great, that's a $500 repair bill right there.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to figure out ways to, like, how can I get these same sounds without actually taking my Andromeda out on the road? And so I'd sample things in a very specific way that I could, load them up into something like a, Yamaha motif, which I was using at the time, and duplicate those same sounds. I even loaded up my my Waldorf Blofeld at the time, which had something like 128 megabytes of RAM. But I could if I sampled things in a certain way, and I knew that, okay, so I'll let the Blofeld do the filtering and obviously the LFO stuff and all that and the detuning. If I sample just the oscillators like this, maybe it could work. And that's actually how the Syntronic content was made way before the actual concept of Syntronic came out.
Yeah.
So it was done for real, practical musical purposes. It wasn't like invented in a marketing meeting where we go, we need a product that emulates classic synths. It's like, okay, there's a million products that emulate classic synths. But this was done, with a very specific intent. And it's like, I wanted to take the sounds of my hardware synths, out of the studio without having to risk, their very existence by doing so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ben, Kent, have you got any questions you want to?
I'm just wondering, like, how long did it take to make that 210 gigabyte library that you've got going on in Syntronic 2? That's some work that involved in that.
Yeah, it took years, of course. But a lot of this library was done far ahead of the Syntronic product even being considered. So I would say it was recorded over a period of 20 years. We keep going back to the GS1. Maybe I know you guys are FM fans. I found a GS1 and restored it with the help of the guys we mentioned, Andre and Rob, and I just started sampling it like soup to nuts, like how if you're going to represent the entire GS1 library, how would you do it? And I just dove in, and that probably took The GS1 alone probably took 2 or 3 years. Because, you go down a path and you go, oh, this isn't really the right way to do it. No, I'm not happy with this. So, you start over and you do it right and all of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, because, sampling FM is actually, it's there's a trick to it because of the dynamic involved in that, the FM process. There aren't many sample libraries that nail it.
I actually, in that instance, I actually sampled every velocity, and there are actual very specific breakpoints in the velocity on the GS1, and they're kind of in the high mid range, like from about velocity 60 to maybe 90. That's where most of the action is happening, and then it's pretty coarse below that, and pretty coarse above that. So I actually, did some experiments. Okay, how many velocities do I need to sample, and what are they? Yeah. And I think I ended up with something like 10, and they're not linear. I didn't do 10, 20, 30, 40. Yeah. I did something like 10, 40, 60, 62, 68, 69, because that's where the breakpoints were. And they weren't necessarily the same for every sound. So I would basically have to do a little bit of research on the sound before sampling it, and then, of course, do the sampling session and all that. Yeah. So
cool. Anything, Ken? Have you got any?
Yeah, because I was just saying with that GS1, it's typical of Yamaha that they have a sort of exponential curve on their velocities rather than a nice linear one where you could have just, split it up. But actually, I'd like to ask you about your Wall of Doom for a moment. Let's get all 900 series here. What are your filters 904As in that?
I'm sorry, are my filters? Yes, no. I have 5 904As, and then I have one 904B and C as well.
Right. Oh God. So you got like RA ones. You got RA modules in there.
Yes.
Essentially. Oh God.
Yes, from April of 1967.
Yeah, because I mean, I suppose a lot of people don't know, but the early Moog modulars, as opposed to one you could buy in 1977 or something like that, it was a massively different beast from the ones in the 60s, which were, well, apart from beasts to control musically, the sound was enormous. So that one you've got there is huge.
Yeah. I agree. I had when we were doing the Alesis QS8 development, we sampled everything from the ground up, and I ran a lot of those sessions. And we needed synth sounds, and of course we needed, sawtooth waves and square waves and detuned sawtooth waves and the basics. And I thought, okay, well, I know where the best sounding synth in the world is. And so I and this will sound funny now and so many years later, but I literally called up Keith Emerson and said, "Hey Keith, it's Erik. Can I rent your modular Moog?" He's like, "Oh, no one's ever asked me that before." I suppose. So he said, "You'll have to move it." So I did, and we got a crew, and I had it in my studio for a while, and I thought, no surprise, this is the best sounding synthesizer I've ever heard. And I got to get me one of these. And so, eventually I did. I found a 2C and then added to it, and now it is the Wall of Doom. But it definitely, I certainly owe it to Keith Emerson, not only from being able to use his instrument, but of course all the music and those just amazing sounds that he got from it, and of course the classics, Tangerine Dream and Klaus Schulze and all that great stuff.
Yeah, is that the Emerson unit that's now at EMIAP in Philadelphia? Was that the one?
It is, and in fact, when the Bob Moog Foundation was involved in the sale of that. And Michelle actually asked me to come over where it was being stored and write an owner's manual. Because it's all custom. It's nothing like mine. It's all these, you have like something that looks like a 911 envelope module, but it's actually oscillators or something else. And so I'd worked with the synth, and I even did programming for Emerson, Lake and Palmer on one tour.
Nice.
As part among others, of course. And so I knew quite a bit about it. I was a fan of it, of course, but it wasn't until I actually had to describe what it actually was that I went into each module and kind of had to figure out what they were. And then, of course, now that MEAP has it, they had a really wonderful unveiling party for that a few years ago, and I got to meet so many people that would tell me the story of why that module was the way it was and how it all came to be. But
it's a fascinating instrument. Any other? Before we have a question, I just want to say thank you to John Simpson. Very interesting cast. Thanks for Erik's participation, and thank you, John, for your donation and for any other donations that I may have missed during the show, because I've been consumed with listening to our guest. Guys, have you got anything else you'd like to ask Erik, or does anybody in the chat want to throw a question in, because we're getting to the end, close to
I was just interested about how the involvement in Omnisphere came about, and did you enjoy making your sounds for that? Or
I did that. That was through Michelle Moog and the Bob Moog Foundation. She just reached out to me and said, Erik Persing is making this tribute library. Would you like to be involved? And I'd never met Erik, but he's a legend in our industry. And I said, anything he's involved in, I'd love to be a part of it. And so I didn't even have Omnisphere back then. And so I wrote to Erik and I said, so do you want one sample? Do you want multi-samples? Do you want them looped or what? And he said, whatever. So, I did samples of The Wall of Doom, and I did, some interesting, modulated things where, the low pass filter would sweep down and then the high pass filter would sweep up, and, the resonances would phase and things like that. And it was just, I think it ended up just being one, what do they call it? A sound source in Omnisphere, just one sound source for that. And then they sent me Omnisphere after I was done, and then I got to learn all about it, and of course it's fantastic. That really was the first kind of pardon the pun, but massive virtual instrument. And in many ways it's still the leader today. It's quite a creation.
And I'm one of those rare people like the Hydrosynth. I don't have Omnisphere either. I know it's crazy. What are you going to do? Some quick questions that have come in from the chat room. So, Ken Lewis wants to know: are any of your stories in a book? If not, why not?
Oh, no, not yet. I suppose I'll have to start doing that soon.
Yeah, come on, Erik Norlander memoirs. That's going to be a worthwhile read for sure.
I'm only 54 years old. Give me a little more time.
Yeah, absolutely. But at some point,
right.
Another one from Death by Media says he wants to know: are there any Easter eggs in the UNO Synth Pro that haven't been found yet?
Not that I know of, but that doesn't mean they're not there.
No, it's very. I love that synth.
Oh, do you know that? Cool. Speaking of Easter eggs, I think enough time has passed now that I can reveal this. I see someone that says I had the QS7 with the Keith Emerson sounds.
Yeah.
We did have an Easter egg, 2 Easter eggs in the QS series, where the sound design team, we all recorded our names, and we'd say samples by Erik Norlander, Taiyo Yamada, Rob Rampley, on down the line, and we sample rate converted that as low as we could possibly do that you could still understand it, and we put it at velocity 1 of MIDI note 0 of something like the cowbell sample. So you would never find it by accident, but if you knew where to look, Like you'd have to set, you'd have to turn velocity to amplitude off, and then you'd have to play MIDI note 0 with a velocity of 1 in order to hear it. And I don't remember if that's exactly where it is, but it's something like that.
And that's
so we actually got
QS7.
in all the QS series.
And all the QS.
Yes. So they're all in there, and you guys can fire me now if you want, but I've been gone for 20 years or 30 years. So
I love that stuff.
And then we did something with the sound cards. We made these things called cue cards, of course. How are you going to miss that pun? And someone decided that we needed to be able to play back MIDI file sequences on the synth, even though it had no sequencer. So we added that in the software. And so, of course, because we thought that was kind of a pain in the butt that we had to do that, we had to vent, for doing that. And so, therefore, on every, well, maybe not every cue card, but most of the cue cards, if you load up sequence 42, it will play the theme to Pinky and the Brain.
Brilliant.
Super.
Yes.
Excellent stuff. Here's another couple of questions for you. I can put two questions into one here, so I will give credit to both. Andy asks, what is your best and worst synth? And Sasquatch was asking, which synth does Erik wish he'd owned but hasn't? So, favourite, least favourite, and which do you think, which do you wish you'd owned but haven't?
The Mini Moog has to be the hands down winner. I mean, that's
best,
the greatest synth of all time. I mean, I've probably owned 20 Mini Moogs over the years, and I still think I have 4. If you count, I have the Studio Electronics MIDI Moog, the one in the rack with the original Moog board, so that technically makes it 4. I mean, that's just a perfect synth. It doesn't everything, but it does what it does better than anything.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I think it's brilliant. Let's see. Worst synth. It's unfair because this was probably a great synth, and so many people used it, but I always hated the Korg M1.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have friends. I have friends that work at Korg and worked on that. I mean, it was a huge product. It made them millions of dollars. So my opinion doesn't mean anything. But I just thought it always sounded like it was under a blanket in a closet underwater, and then that you could EQ things to kind of make up for that. But I mean, come on, in all fairness, it was one of the first romplers, and I don't know how big the sound set is in it. What, 2 megabytes or 4 megabytes, something like that. So it bothered me because I would keep coming across it I'd be having be doing fly-in dates, and I'd have backline gear, and I'd always specify what I wanted, and inevitably there'd be a Korg M1 there, and it was like, oh, I hate this thing. And, so that's a personal bias. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There's Michael Whalen. Hi,
Yes,
Michael.
yeah. Michael's in the room. We're talking about him in just a moment. Isn't it funny though that because first of all, number one, I am delighted that you didn't say the DX7 was the worst synth, because that's often the answer. And that hurts.
I'll say it
right
for you.
here. No, you won't. Shut up. I can disconnect you. But also the M1 and the DX7, I think, are M1 being number one and DX7 being number 2, the biggest selling hardware synths of all time. And yet they are often cited by many people as possibly their least favorite or their the worst.
I happen to love the DX7. I can put my money where my mouth is. I have 2 original DX7s. I have a TX816 propped up right on the side of the couch there.
I see it. Yep.
I have an SY99. I talked about the motifs and the MOXF stroke 9, whatever, and of course the GS1, and I have an EX5R. I mean, I'm a very big Yamaha fan. Oh, and the FS1R. So
got one. Yeah, love it.
Yes, I love these
great
synths.
module.
And you're not going to replace a Mini Moog with a DX7, but similarly, you're not going to replace a DX7 with a Mini Moog either.
No, absolutely.
So,
could replace an M1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably so.
I feel so much happier now. So much happier. There was another question. This is an interesting one. I've never considered this. Wagyu wants to know, UNO Synth Pro 19-inch rack. When? Is there any... Can you give us any inside information? Is there anything?
I would say unlikely, because there is a desktop unit.
Yeah.
And the desktop unit was designed. I mean, that is the product basically. You've got the whole interface there, and then with the capacitance sensing keyboard.
Yeah.
And the industry is moving towards that kind of product, and I think away from 19-inch rack gear. And I mean, I probably could have said this 10 years ago and still been correct. Yeah, I think it's unlikely that IK will ever do a 19. I think it's unlikely that they'll do a 19-inch rack product, period.
Yeah.
But
it's
I
funny
could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, 19-inch rack products just don't seem to be
It's a
thing
great
anymore.
format, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's awkward. I mean, at the moment, I don't have a rack unit to put all of my rack gear in, so it's kind of like scattered around. That's something I must address fairly soon. But it is, you could just, like you said, you can build your own wall of doom and just shove all of this stuff in there. It's a weird thing how tastes and things change. But yeah, you're right when you say the desktop is. I mean, when I look around, I've got UNO Synth and UNO Synth Pro, UNO Drum, Livens. Even some of the old Yamaha stuff is desktop. The TX7s and Craft Synths, Sculpts. Yeah, it's definitely a thing these days, isn't it? Right. I think that's a show, ladies and gentlemen. Unless anybody's got any burning questions they want to throw in last minute. But Erik, thank you so much for your time. We've run over, so thank you again for the extended extra time added on there. That's really, really great. Anything happening in your world? I know your wife Lana has released an album fairly recently. Are you going to be touring that at all soon? Anything coming up in your world that we should be aware of?
We don't have any tour plans at the moment. All of my touring plans kind of blew up because of COVID. And I think we're all kind of still getting back into that. Although I do have quite a few friends who are out on the road again. It's possible next year, though, we may get back into it. There will be certainly more products, certainly more sound libraries and all of that. And hopefully, more albums and music and all of that.
Cool.
Along with
Look forward to it. Look forward to it. Fantastic. Are you going to NAMM this year, by the way?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. I had every intention of. I thought this year, because it's in June, that was really convenient. And then my sister decides she's going to get married that weekend. Right. So unfortunately, can't go to NAMM this year either. So never mind. But enjoy that.
I have a question for you,
Sure.
British people.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a fabulous movie that was released last year about the Frank Herbert novel that was called Dune. Mm-hmm. And then there's the 6th month of the year. How do you differentiate how you guys say that? Because when my ear, it sounds exactly the same.
Yeah, I think. I mean, June. Yeah, it is kind of a j, isn't it, rather than a d and a
June.
June.
Frank Herbert's June.
I think it all depends.
My birthday's in June. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it
We're
depends.
going to see June in June.
Yeah. Oh, that would be.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I think it does depend on maybe the part of the country you come from and your particular accent. If you're from where Kent is, which is a very well-spoken part of the
We
world.
down here we say Dune,
Yes.
as in
But then-
Brigadoon.
Brigadoon, yes.
Aye, that's right. There.
Hey, Brigadoon. But I see where I come from. We have sand dunes. So, yeah, it's June, sand dunes. It's,
Sand dunes, Terry and June.
yeah. Oh, terrible. And we invented this language and we're just destroying it.
Yeah, Terry and Dune.
You do, yeah, quite, yeah.
That don't work at all.
No. It's a very good point, Erik. Well made.
Wonderful.
thank you ever so much. And if you want to find more about Erik, in particular, eriknorlander.com, it's as simple as that. And you can find out all about Erik's history, his discography. There's audio samples. Let's also not forget Erik's Bandcamp page, which I believe the link is quite simply eriknorlander.bandcamp.com. But if and that's probably the best way to buy Erik's music, because I think Erik probably gets a better cut from there, but also is available on iTunes as well. And Erik is also on Facebook and YouTube and so on. All the links are on the webpage there. Lots of stuff, and you can hear samples of the music too. And of course, Erik's work is all over Syntronic 2, which is available from IK Multimedia. And don't forget the Lost String library for Sampletron 2 is available now in June. It's available now as a free expansion if you own Sampletron. If you don't, go out and buy it, and then you can do that as well. I want to just skip right back very quickly to the Akai MPK Mini Mini Play version 3.
Yeah.
We have got a price. It's being sold here in the UK for £104.99, which actually is a pretty good price for that. For what it does, because I think that the early versions were like 75, 80 quid, but the version 3, £104.99. Not bad. Not bad. So I thought I'd just wind back on that one. I'd also, I forgot to do this last week, and Mr. Bryce did ask me specifically to do this. So I do this now under duress, because he'll probably hate me for it if I don't. But of course, you might remember when Dave came on the show, live on the show, Dave set up a Pro Synth Network forum over at the Music Player forums. And so I wanted to just remind everybody that, of course, you can join us on Facebook and interact with everyone, the whole community there. But if forums are your thing, if you're maybe a lady or a gentleman of a particular age like we are, forums were kind of where we used to hang out, and I kind of missed the forum format. Yeah, old people. Yeah. So if you want to go to Music Player Network, you can find, and the link is on the Facebook page. You can find our very own Pro Synth Network forum, where there's a bunch of topics already, and you can add to that, and it's completely free of charge. So if you like interacting in the forum world, that's where to go. And a big thanks to Dave Price for setting that up for us, completely free of charge. And he's allowing us to ride roughshod really over everything there and do some cool stuff. So thank you for that. So that's that. I'm just ticking off everything that I should have said. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's just remind everyone what we've got coming up over the next few weeks. So April Fool's next week, and on the day he specifically requested to have this slot. So who are we to deny? The veritable Gaz Williams will be joining us from it's Bristol, I think it's where he's based. Hopefully for a great show there. Don't forget that also next week, this time difference thing between the UK and the rest of North America, we now catch up, because the North Americans all went to daylight savings nearly 2 weeks ago. We go this Sunday, so all the timings that would normally happen, so we're on air at 7 p.m. UK time, so next week we're back to 2 p.m. on the East Coast and 11 a.m. on the West. So make sure that you've got those. I won't trouble Ben anymore, because he had so much grief from me trying to get those right. But of course, the simplest way to get around all of this is to simply subscribe to the channel, and you will be told exactly when it happens. So just do that, and it's nice and simple. But
why does America do that? Do you know?
I don't know whether America is early or the UK are late.
As far as I was aware, or at least I was taught at school, that we invented time. It's made up at Greenwich.
There's a little factory down in Greenwich.
There's a little factory in Greenwich where all the time comes from, and everybody's got to work to that, isn't it?
I honestly don't know why it's always different. It's crazy, but it's very confusing. I think we should just get rid of it altogether.
There's actually a vote going on in the U.S. Congress to eliminate daylight savings time, which I am a big fan of.
Yeah.
And actually, we changed, I think it was within the last 10 years, to where I think it's like the first Sunday in March or second Sunday in March now is when we change.
Yeah,
so
and we always tend to do
2 weeks. It's 2 weeks earlier than Europe, and it's hell when you're trying to do these kinds of things between Europe and America.
Well, as everyone knows, I work for an American company, and so everything gets kind of blown out of whack, and people forget, and you start calling people, and it's like later or earlier, and it's just crazy. Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, that all happens this Sunday. So for the next show, which is Gaz, on the 1st of April, we will be back to our normal times for our cousins over in America. Who else have we got coming up? We got Tara Bush, who is currently on tour with Gary Newman, supporting him as I Speak Machine. Unfortunately, Gary's had to postpone the next few dates because COVID has managed to infiltrate the bubble, shall we say. But she's been out on tour with Gary, and she's got a brand new album coming out next month as well. It is awesome. She's the queen of synthesizers. Some of the stuff that she does is just mind-blowingly good. So if you want to speak to Tara, and of course her husband, I think Matt, will be joining us as well. And they're both good friends, long-term friends, very, very funny, very entertaining couple. Please join us for that one. And then coming up on April, I want to say 22nd. I know he was in the chat, so he'll chastise me if I get this wrong. It is April 22nd. We've got the great Michael Whalen again joining us, but this time he will be joining us from EMIAP in Philadelphia ahead of his album launch party, which will take place later on that day for him. But Michael has promised us that he will give us maybe a little guided tour, maybe a very exclusive performance, because they've set up a fantastic rig for him that includes, I think, at least 2 mini Moogs, and there's a DX1 in there, there's a CP70 in there, there's a CS80 in there, there's a Prophet 5 in there. There's just an incredible array of instruments that the establishment has set up for him, and he will be going through that for us live on the show, April 22nd. So that's going to be a whole lot of fun. Do not miss that one at all. The following week, what have we got? Actually, the following week, we haven't got anyone at the moment because I don't think I'm going to be around that day. But we'll have to see, because that's going to be Ben's first show where he takes control of the show on his own. Are you going to cope, Ben? Do we need to set up some lessons?
I was thinking about breaking my own legs that day.
No, you could do this job sitting down, lying down. You're not going to get out of it that easy. Dear, oh dear. May 6th, we're going to be joined by Andrew Longhurst, who has a rich history with Emu, and he has his own multimedia company that does high-quality video, and he's a great musician in his own right. And so we're going to have Andrew along on May the 6th. And then finally, we were going to have him back, I think it was the week before last. Dan Goldstein from Cherry Audio is finally going to come, and he's going to be telling us about the new Cherry Audio plugin that even we don't know about yet, but he has told us there will be something around early May, so he's going to be joining us for that. And then following that, we've got Jim Danica back on the show, and Jim's going to tell us all about the new version, the new libraries for his main stage system called Backstage Pass, and touring out with Michael Smith and who's the other lady, Amy Grant, that he tours with. So lots to talk about there. And
I've just realised something on that picture of Jim there. I don't think that's a real KX88. I think it's not. It's a drawing, isn't it?
It is.
It's a graphic. Yeah.
And I mean, who's got a KX88 that you could possibly ask for a photograph?
I know, yeah.
We've got Elliot Kennedy as well in June. Hit songwriter and singer and performer, and opens for the Sheffield Steelers. He sings the national anthem before that, but he's a great songwriter from Sheffield, and he's written countless hit singles and hit songs for lots of people. So lots of great people coming up on the show between now and then. And we are booking some more as we speak. We've got some fantastic names. Fingers crossed we're trying to nail them down to specific dates. But do stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel. Come and join us at Facebook. Come and join us at the forum as well. And you can keep well informed of all that. Kent.
What?
When's your shed finished?
They say Monday night.
Oh wow, that's soon.
Yeah. Oh, I've been told I can't call it a shed anymore.
What have you got to call it?
Complex.
It's
workshop.
yeah. Yes, it's a workshop office. Oh, sorry,
Workshop
stroke office.
Stroke office. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Will you have comfy chairs?
Yeah, we'll have everything. I'll tell you.
Coffee machine.
That's an idea. Do you know what? I want to get one of those chocolate velvetizers. That's what I want.
Oh, yes, I've seen those.
Yeah.
Matron. Very nice.
Really.
Lovely. Well, we want to see pictures of that, so make sure you take some.
Oh, well, I thought I'd take pictures of it when it's actually assembled. Because at the moment it looks like somebody dropped an Airfix kit of a Lancaster on the floor. It's not much better than that.
And of course you've got your show that you do on a Thursday. We say show. We always do inverted commas. It's kind of a gathering, is it? A communal gathering.
It's a punch up in a car park, really, isn't it?
Kind of thing, yeah.
But videoed.
Yes, and it's on every Thursday evening from 7 p.m. UK time. So put that in your books. Of course, what else have we got? Community-wise, tomorrow we've got Ranzi. I can't remember what the times are now. I'm sure Andy will pop them because I think he's changing his times a little bit. He's starting the full show like an hour later or an hour earlier. But Ranzi is on tomorrow. And then Sunday we've got Mr. Wiggly, Dominic Hawken. I don't know who his guest is this week, but he will be on Sunday at 7. An hour before him will be Jamie of GeoSynth doing his show. So 2 shows on Sunday, 1 on the Saturday. And then we're back next Friday. That's it, folks. That's another great show in the bag. Thank you, Eric, once more. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Kent. To everyone that's watching, thank you for joining us. We love the fact that you do. We appreciate your patronage as always. And we will see you same time, same place next week. Until then, have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great one. Ta-ta.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.